What's up everybody, Brody here from Sew Yeah Quilting. Today in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make these reversible fabric bins. As you can see here, they can be used for a lot of different uses. You can put straps on them and hang them. You can use them to hold pens, anything else. We're going to jump right into the project. Let's get started. The fabrics that I have here are used for a 6-inch bin. So I have two different fabrics. These are cut at 20 inches by 9 inches. And then I also have a piece of batting cut the same, at the same dimensions. I have a piece of Timtex and a piece of Bosel. These are going to be used for the bottom of the bin to make it more stable. And what I've done is I've also cut out 2 circles here that are going to be for the bottom of the bin. Included in the pattern, we've put templates to make a 6-inch bin. You can obviously make these bigger or smaller as you please. And there'll be more instructions on how to make it bigger in the pattern. So let's get to sewing. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take my first piece of fabric. I'm going to put it right sides together. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam along the short side. What this is going to allow us to do is be able to measure from the seam and be able to get our other markings that we're going to put on our bin. One thing that's important to remember for this project is we're going to be using 1/2 inch seams the whole time. So I'm going to use my plate here for a 1/2 inch seam. Okay, so we've sewn our first piece of fabric together. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our other piece with our batting. We're going to lay them right on top of each other, the same way we did our first piece of fabric. We're going to set them on top, make sure they line right up. Then we're going to fold them in half, right sides together, so with the batting on there. And we're going to sew a 1/2 inch seam right down the short side. Now that I have my 2 pieces of fabric sewn, what I'm going to do is take a marking pen and I'm going to mark directly across from the seam that I've sewn. So I'm just going to lay it down and press it down flat. Grab my marking pen. So mark right here on the outside. Just like this. I'm going to do the same thing on this other one. This other piece I have. So I'm going to fold it right in half where my seam is. And mark right here on the end. So I can see using a marker works best just because you don't really have a lot of room to push down hard and it just goes right on the fabric. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to match up this mark that I've marked with my seam. So I'm going to open it up like this, set it down to where it's right on top of the seam, press it flat, and I'm going to mark the same thing on each side of the outside pieces. So I'm going to push it down, get my marker, and mark right here on the edge. Same thing on this side. I'm going to do the same thing here with my fabric that has the batting sewn on it. I'm going to fold it in half to where the blue mark that I've made is right on top of the seam. Lay it down flat. And what this is going to do is this is just going to give us some reference points when we're sewing the bottom of our bin together, or sewing it onto the siding. So now that I have both of my pieces of fabric marked, I'm going to do the same thing with the top and bottom of my bin. So the way I'm going to do this one is I'm just going to, since it's a perfect circle, I'm just going to fold it in half. Press it down over the top itself, and I'm going to mark the edge right here on my fabric. Same thing on the other side. Push it over. I'm going to mark the edge. You could even just pick it up and pinch it like this, so knowing that I have it in the right spot, and mark a little blue mark on it. Now I'm going to take the same thing that we did with these fabrics. I'm going to take this and touch these 2 blue marks together. I'll actually do it where it's right sides together. Over to this side, press it down, and mark it. Again, this is just to give us a reference point when you're sewing things together. I'm going to do the same thing on my other circle, and we'll be right back. Now that I have everything marked, what I'm going to do is fuse my bottom onto my fabrics here. So I'm just going to take these 2 pieces. So this piece here is double-sided fusible, and this one here is a single-sided fusible. What we're going to do is just take them, put them onto the center. I can put this in the center camera. The center of the bottom, what will be the bottom, and I'm going to fuse these together. I'll be right back. Now that I have my fabric fused together with my stabilizer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my outer fabric that has the batting on it, and I'm going to line up the marks of my half circle on the, or excuse me, the marks on my circle with my fabric here. So I'm going to put it with, so my stabilizer's on the outside. Got a blue mark here and a blue mark here. I'm going to put them together and I'm going to add a wonder clip. just to get it to stay in place. Now, I'm gonna go around here to my next blue mark, which is right here. I'm gonna put these together, and I'm going to add another clip. Once I have all 4 of the clips and all 4 of the marks, I'll add a few more clips just to keep everything together, and then we're gonna start sewing. Now that I have everything pinned up or clipped up, what I'm gonna do is bring this over to the sewing machine. And this part can be a tiny bit tricky, but this is what you're gonna do. You're going to slide it under your needle. I usually just put my foot down to keep it in place. And you're just gonna sew these 2 pieces of fabric together. So you're sewing your bottom and the side of your bin together, just like this on the outside. So as you can see here, I'm basically just running this where I'm almost pushing the stabilizer underneath my foot. That's basically just getting me to be where I want with my seam. So now that I've got the bottom sewn on, I like to just give it a quick little spot check. Make sure that everything was in the right spot. So I'm just gonna run my finger along the inside of here to make sure I didn't miss anything. Make sure my finger's not gonna end up poking out. So here's the first portion of our project. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing on our lining. Obviously you don't have the batting and the stabilizer in there, so it's gonna be a little bit easier, but I'm going to match up the marks on my piece of fabric here with the marks on my circle. You want to make sure they're right sides together, so you're basically putting on the inside. I'm going to match these together like this. Now that I have my inner lining sewn, what I'm going to do is flip it inside out, just like this. And I'm going to put it on the inside of my outer portion of the bin, right? I'm going to put it on the inside of the outer portion of our bin. And I'm going to just take the seam that I have here and I match it up with the seam that's on the inside of here. So these are now right sides together. And I'm going to, like I said, put the seams together. Grab another one of my Wonder Clips. I'm going to clip this onto the top of my bag here, or excuse me, my bin. Now that everything's clipped up, we're going to go ahead and sew a 1/2 inch seam around the top here. So now that I've sewn my bin together, what I'm going to do is flip it inside out. I've left a few inches here on top that is open that I have not sewn, so we can flip it. Obviously make sure that the piece of batting with your fabric sewn together, you're not pulling those apart. You're taking your outer lining and the inner and the outside of the bag. And the easiest way to do this is to go here and basically fold this into thirds. So I'm going to fold it together like this and fold it together like this. So it's folded into thirds. Stick my hand in here and pull it right side out. So now that it's flipped, I'm going to go ahead and stuff the lining back inside, and we're still going to have a hole here that we're going to need to top stitch. Now that everything's folded right sides out, I'm just going to take the hole that I turned through, fold it down 1/4 inch here, and top stitch. Now that I've top stitched, what I'm going to do is just fold the top down, the cuff down, excuse me, to whatever height I want it, and just like that, the bin is done. If you'd like to add a handle like I have here on this one, pull this one over, all you're going to do is fold your cuff down to where you want it, and you'll basically just put your fingers inside and put a mark inside when you add your handle, and then fold this up and sew it on with the box method. I'll put this here under the camera so you can see. Fold this up over my plants, and you can see that it's got the box sewn on it. If you've liked this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends. As always, we're going to leave instructions on how to make this project in the description below. My name is Brody, teaching you how to sew like a pro. We'll see you next week at Sew Yeah Quilting.